Hello everyone, my name is Evan Hartsock. I'm a senior mass communications major with a minor in political science, and the topic of my presentation today is the role of the United States and South Korea and challenges from Trump. I decided to choose this topic because I always knew that the United States had a strong relationship with South Korea, but I really wasn't sure why. I knew we had military ties to the country. I have a friend in the Army who got deployed to South Korea to serve, but I didn't really know how deep our alliance was when it came to other things like economics, shared history, and things of that nature. So I wanted to dig into that and learn more about it, and also how our alliance and relations with South Korea have been affected due to Trump's administration, which tends to be more nationalist and put America first when it comes to international relations. So the United States has always played a large role and an important one in the success of the Republic of Korea, which has produced a strong alliance between the two states since the Cold War. This alliance has benefited both countries as it's provided South Korea with the defense and economic conditions necessary to become a relevant influencer on the world stage, and it's also given the United States a strong military presence in Asia. However, despite a strong history, there's also been some bumpy moments as the United States and South Korea have experienced ups and downs throughout their alliance, throughout history, and currently they're facing some right now as Americans have felt exploited by free trade deals with Korea, and Koreans have had their own internal struggles with the United States military's presence in their state and trying to figure out if they really need to rely on the United States so much for their own defense. Despite these differences, the alliance has remained strong in recent years and reached what many believe to be its high point during the Obama administration. However, these strong bonds that were built during the Obama presidency are now being challenged as the Trump administration's America First policies differ greatly from the latter's. President Trump's threats to pull out of trade deals, decrease spending on foreign defense, and his unconventional methods of dealing with North Korea's nuclear threat have put great strains on the United States-South Korean relationship, which is one of its most important. Now, one of the large areas of disagreement, and not necessarily disagreement, but really something that's really dividing the United States and North Korea right now, is the United States military presence, which has had a rich history in South Korea. The United States military has remained a strong presence in South Korea and has played a very influential role in the country for most of its history. At the end of World War II, what is now present-day South Korea was underruled by the United States military under General John Hodges until 1948. And this is really where we see the importance of a United States military presence really show itself as American forces left South Korea in 1949, which gave way for a communist North Korea to invade the south of the Korean Peninsula. So in 1950, American forces returned to fight in the Korean War, in which approximately 36,000 US troops died, pushing North Korean forces back towards the border with China. After stopping the spread of communism into South Korea at the end of the war, the United States signed the Mutual Defense Treaty Agreement with South Korea in 1953, which has maintained the United States military presence in the country to this day. The military presence the United States has been able to maintain has played a key role in South Korea. It not only stopped the spread of communism into the country, but also helped lay the groundwork for the current republic and the democracy that it enjoys, and continues to do so by deterring threats from North Korea. Despite the importance of this military alliance, in which both United States and Korean forces serve side by side, President Trump campaigned on the idea that America was providing too much aid to its allies. Throughout the 2016 election, Trump claimed that American allies such as Germany, Japan, and South Korea were taking advantage of the defense that the United States provided by either not paying their fair share or giving nothing back in return. Trump once said that South Korea should pay us, and pay us very substantially for protecting them, and has threatened to renegotiate or even pull out of the alliance. Trump's comments have put a strain on the United States' relations with South Korea, as many of them really tend to not be true. The Republic of Korea actually carries a significant load of the military alliance, as they pay for around 50% of the costs of the 28,000 US personnel in the country. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, the cost of bringing American troops back to the United States would be far more expensive than keeping them in Korea, and the American taxpayer would end up having to foot the bill for their return. Korea's commitments, in some cases, have actually been able to save the United States money, as the Korean government has provided $808 million as of 2016 to U.S. troops in the region. They will also be paying for 92% of a $10.8 billion base relocation project in Korea, which is one of the Pentagon's largest foreign construction projects. Trump's inaccurate comments have had significant impacts on the alliance with South Korea and caused many Koreans to wonder if the agreement between the two states is still worth it. Being an ally to the United States has really not always been easy. Because of the military agreement, the South has often been forced to join military conflicts that it would not otherwise have been involved in. In the Vietnam War, 5,000 Korean troops were killed and a large number were exposed to the U.S. chemical weapon known as Agent Orange. In the 2000s, Republic of Korean troops were deployed into the Iraq War despite large protests from Korean citizens. They ended up having to be deployed because President Bush threatened to reduce the number of Americans stationed in South Korea, which forced the Korean government to deploy troops in order to maintain that defense there. In addition to the unnecessary conflicts that the Korean forces have had to participate in, South Korean citizens have also experienced human rights offenses because of the alliance. South Korean military dictators have forced women to have sex with Americans, and because the United States forces in Korea are solely under the jurisdiction of the United States military, they've been able to get away with egregious acts. In 2002, an American military vehicle ran over and killed 2 middle school-aged girls in South Korea. The Americans were shielded from Korean prosecution under the 1966 Status of Forces Agreement, and a United States military court dismissed the case. Trump's comments, paired with a history of incidents such as these, have caused many Koreans, such as Si Wong-koo, a writer for the New York Times, to reconsider if the Republic of Korea should maintain their agreement with the United States. He believes that the alliance that was once needed to deter North Korea is out of date, as South Korea now has a strong economy that spends 2.7% of its total GDP on defense and possesses a military of nearly 650,000 individuals. Just as the United States has played a large role in the state formation and protection of Korea, it's also had a hand in its economic development. The two countries established trading relations in 2007 when they signed the U.S.-Korea Free Trade Agreement, which did not go into effect until March of 2012. The deal turned the United States into one of Korea's largest trading partners, as the total goods and services exchanged between the two countries in 2016 was around $144.6 billion. Korea has become the United States' 7th largest export market, as the U.S. sent $42.3 billion in goods and services to the country in 2016. However, a large deficit has formed greatly because the United States does not ship as much to Korea as Korea ships to us. There's a $27.7 billion trading deficit that favors South Korea. And the large deficit that the trade deal has created caused widespread debate over whether or not it would benefit the United States to remain in it. Many who support the deal claim that it's valuable as it gives the United States access to a wealthy Korean market, but those who want to see the U.S. pull out of it, like President Trump, believe that the South has benefited far more from the agreement. President Trump promised that when he took office, he would renegotiate trade deals that hurt the American economy, or even pull out of free trade deals such as NAFTA if they continued to produce unfair results. In September, Trump instructed advisors to begin to withdraw from the South Korean trade deal, a move that caused economic tension between the United States and Korea. South Korea's new president, Moon Jae-in, who was elected in May, has not taken well to Trump's brand of nationalism when it comes to trade talks. Moon is notably less pro-America than his predecessor, and Trump's aggressiveness to push his America First agenda has caused him to push back, fighting for his country's own best interest. Trump has actually used military protection over South Korea's leverage in trade agreements, but many Koreans feel that there is no reason that Seoul should have to put its economic interests on hold behind their security concerns, as it would give Americans leverage in negotiation talks. Although Trump wants to get out of a deal he believes is bad for the United States, leaving it can make things much worse. In addition to really stunting our relations with South Korea, pulling out of the trade deal would be very detrimental, as it could lead to increases on tariffs on goods imported from Korea into the United States, such as things like electronics, cars, and cell phones. South Korea could also immediately charge high tariffs on the goods the U.S. exports to the country as well, which could rise from 0%, as it currently is, to as high as 14%. The sudden rise in tariffs will make it a lot harder for American companies to find buyers and do business in South Korea, and would also lead to an increase on prices on consumer goods in the United States. While economic and military factors are a part of the United States-South Korean alliance, an element of shared values and, most importantly, deterrence and containment of North Korea are really at the very heart of it. Trump and Moon have had very different approaches to dealing with the nuclear threat that North Korea poses, which has created some tension among the allies. Trump has taken a more realist approach to handling North Korea, as he threatened a preventative war against the regime and made incendiary comments saying that he would totally destroy the country, as well as unleash fire and fury on it. Believing that Kim Jong-un would only respond to displays of power and an unwillingness to back down, Trump continued to challenge North Korea's young leader by calling him various names, one of the most notable being Rocket Man. This approach has made many Koreans very wary, as a preventative strike could lead to an all-out war on the peninsula, which could leave up to 300,000 people dead in just the early days of fighting. President Moon, on the other hand, was elected on the premise he would shift towards dialogue with the North, something that Trump had previously called a waste of time. Moon has attempted to keep open dialogue and has supported the use of economic sanctions and joint military exercises to deter the North, but is not on the same page as Trump when it comes to military action. Despite the division among the two leaders, something that the North has been trying to do for decades, both Moon and Trump agreed on methods to deal with North Korea during the president's recent trip to Asia. While in South Korea on his Asian trip, President Trump's outlook and rhetoric on the situation shifted greatly. He was still stern in his comments about North Korea, but also added that he was open to diplomacy, and he urged Kim Jong-un to come to the table to make a deal. He also noted that the United States had placed aircraft carriers as well as a nuclear submarine in the Pacific, but also stated that he hoped to God he would never have to use it. North Korea has tried for decades to divide the leaders of Korea and the United States on strategies on how to deal with the North in an effort to break the alliance, which more than likely played a role in the two leaders finding common ground. Just as the common goal of containing North Korea has strengthened the relations between the United States and South Korea in the past, it can now do the same thing as it helps the two countries to work together and possibly sort out some economic and defense deals as well while dealing with the nuclear threat that North Korea poses. The United States has always played a large role in the Republic of Korea, as it has helped the country become the wealthy democracy that it is today. From the beginning of the alliance, the two states have shared since the end of World War II. Both countries have worked through ups and downs to maintain a strong relationship that has provided both with the tools they've needed to be successful. For Korea, the United States helped fight off communism and provided the security the country needed to form a democracy with a thriving economy. For the United States, Korea provided a viable ally in an area of the world where the US could project power and keep watch over enemy nations. While there are inequalities in the two countries' trade agreement, and the looming threat of North Korea are at hand, the current leaders of both nations will have to look to the past to deal with new challenges. President Trump, most importantly, will have to realize that the importance of the United States' role on the Korean Peninsula and not let his nationalist policies get in the way of world peace.